What happens when two innocent lives are snatched away in the dead of night, leaving behind a trail of terror and unanswered questions? Today, we unravel the chilling mystery behind the brutal murders of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell, a case that haunted a Florida community for almost 3 decades before the shocking truth came to light. Hey dudes, welcome to the Weird and Wicked podcast, where we'll deep dive into the most bizarre and spine-chilling tales from around the world. I'm Rachel, your guide on this eerie adventure. I have an obsession with the mysterious and the unknown. Get ready to explore the most bizarre, unnerving, and unbelievable stories. From true crime and conspiracy theories to ghosts and cryptids, we'll cover it all. Today we'll be diving into the stories of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell. Stay tuned because the truth is often stranger and more wicked than fiction. Warning: this episode discusses disturbing crimes including home invasion and murder, which may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Hey guys, I'm back! Oh my god, I'm literally actually so excited to be back filming. I woke up this morning at like 5 a.m. and I just couldn't sleep because I was like thinking of all of like the stuff that I'm working on and filming and whatnot and bringing the podcast back finally. But yeah, I was just so freaking excited I couldn't sleep this morning. So yeah, after about a year of hiatus, I figured it's time to bring it back. And honestly, I did really miss doing this. I kept finding myself like driving to work and putting on a podcast, and I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, mainly Killer Queens and Crime Junkie. But yeah, I would like be listening to the podcast and I'm like, why am I not doing this? Why am I not working on the podcast? Like, I was just really like, every time I would just think to myself, like, I could be doing this and I miss doing this. So here I am relaunching this awesome show, and I have no plans of stopping it anytime soon. In fact, I have a lot of plans in store to keep it going for a while. I don't want to give out too many spoilers, but I will say I have episodes planned through December. So buckle in and get ready for these. So yeah, pretty much there's a lot of exciting things coming to the Weird and Wicked podcast. Aside from the relaunch, that's all fun in itself, but you guys have a lot of things in store. And you'll be hearing a few of them. Like I'll probably like sprinkle them into this episode as little teasers and whatnot. So stay tuned throughout the whole thing. So yeah, I've pretty much been like replanning this launch since May 2024. I have a lot of stuff. Like I'm super busy all the time. I have 2 jobs and I started 75 Hard and I got engaged. So I'm planning a wedding. But I was like, let me add one more thing onto the plate. Why not? Like, let's just go for it. So I was like planning and redoing a bunch of the stuff. You might see that some of the graphics are different, or maybe some of the wording is a little bit different from last time, but overall, same idea. Same thing pretty much going forward. So I literally can't wait to get this started with you guys again. Okay, and I know I'm rambling a little bit here, so feel free to skip ahead. I'm going to put the time stamp on the screen and you guys can fast forward if you really don't care about all this crap. But I wanted to spend just a few quick minutes sharing like what I've been up to this past year pretty much, because we've been gone a little while. So I just want to kind of go over like what's changed and what I have in store for you guys coming up. So I have my little list here. So yeah, I mentioned back in October, I got engaged. Troy finally popped the question after like 9 years of dating, which is fine. It was good timing. So ever since then, I've just been doing a lot of stuff related to that, like engagement parties, wedding planning, venue touring, the whole 9 yards. We do have a venue picked, and I'm starting to like get vendors and stuff all lined up and whatnot. We're planning on October 10th, 2025. So I'll be in the middle of wedding planning for quite a while. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm starting early though, so that's good. I keep thinking that like we're way too early on this shit, but everyone's like, no, this is good. Like, keep planning. Like, things are gonna get booked out, especially for October, blah, blah, blah. So I'm chugging along on that. And then I've also just been really busy with work. Like, that honestly takes up a lot of my time. I work from home 4 days out of the week, and then I do Michael's still. I work at Michael's on like Wednesdays and then some Saturdays. Like, sometimes I have a little weekend to myself every now and then. But yeah, most of the time I'm working like 6 days a week. So takes up a lot of my time. Then I also mentioned that I started 75 Hard. If you haven't heard of it, it's like a mental toughness fitness challenge where for 75 days you like you work out. Okay, let me find the rules. Okay, so for 75 days straight, you must work out twice a day and one workout must be outside. You have to take a progress picture every day. You have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction or self help book a day. You have to drink a whole gallon of water in a day. You have to follow a strict diet, no cheat meals, and no alcohol whatsoever. So I am on day 26 currently. So yeah, I've been doing really well. Like, honestly, I thought the alcohol was going to be the hardest part about it. And the two workouts, obviously, because that's just like a big time commitment. But it's actually been going really well. Like, I have not skipped anything. I'm going strong on it. I'm being super strict about it. I like laid out time blocks during my day. So I know that I have like allotted time for the certain things that I have to get done. So yeah, it's been going really well and I'm actually enjoying it. And I'm enjoying already seeing the changes that I've seen in my body and the way I feel and the way that like my mental health seems more clear. So yeah, I would attribute all of that to 75 Hard. We'll see how it's going because I'm what in let's see, week 4 right now. People usually say like week 3 and week 4 are the hardest for people because you're kind of over that excitement of it. And then you're just kind of like, okay, why am I doing this? Which I don't know. Like the outside workouts are hard to do because it's hot as freaking hell out here in Florida. And that's kind of like the hardest one that I've run into so far. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. We got ways to go. So I'll keep y'all updated on that. But yeah, other than that, I don't have too many other updates. So enough keeping y'all waiting. Let's get into the story. Okay, sorry. Before we get into the story, I'd like to mention that if you find this video entertaining, interesting, or informational, please drop a like or tap that subscribe button down below. It'll really help the channel out. Okay, so I also just wanted to start by saying like why this story was particularly haunting to me. So first of all, it takes place in Cape Coral, Florida. And as some of you might know, I grew up in Fort Myers and Cape Coral as well. So I also have a lot of family that grew up around this area and live in this area. So it's just weird to think like it is so close to home. It reminds me of the Hog Trail Killer story that was our first episode ever. And it was just crazy to like learn about this crazy stuff that happened, this horrible tragedy that happened so close to home. So the moment, like when I remember when the trial was going on, I was just like, wow, I didn't really know about this case because I was not even born yet. But even just like as a kid, you know, you aren't really aware of the evils in the world. And then growing up and seeing like, oh yeah, this shit really does happen. And it happens everywhere where you grow up, where you live, where you go to school, all this stuff. So it's just crazy to think that this stuff happens all around you. I am an avid true crime podcast listener. I almost fall into that like hole of just listening to the stories over like one after the other. And it sucks, but like you forget that these are people's lives. And yeah, it's just good to, I feel like, to remind ourselves like this could happen anyway. and it could be happening next door for all you know. So, unfortunately, I also couldn't find a lot of sources actually from 1990. So there's a little bit of a lack of information about Lisa and Robin, but I will tell you what I know about them. So pretty much I like scoured Reddit and all kinds of like Google, all that search engines to just see if I could find anything, like any source material from 1990. And I just couldn't. Like, I would find links and then I would click on them and they would go to like an error page. I don't know why. But there's a lot of reporting on the trial. So, like, some of those like went into the backstory, but I just wish there were more sources from 1990 when this actually happened. Unfortunately, I just couldn't find them. If you find any, link them down below or send me a message. Contact me on our website or something, whether you're listening to audio or watching on YouTube. Let me know, because I'd be super interested to read the actual reports or just an article from when it happened. I just couldn't really find those. So we'll see. Let me know if you find any. Lisa Story was a 32-year-old nurse whose compassion and dedication to her work made her a beloved figure in the Cape Coral, Florida community. Known for her warm personality and tireless care, Lisa touched the lives of many patients and colleagues alike. She was the kind of person who would go out of her way to help others, always with a smile on her face. Her friends and family remembered her as a beacon of kindness and strength, someone who brought comfort and hope to those around her. This is really just the type of person who wants to bring everyone up around her. She's positive, happy, hardworking, and overall, like, just a great person. Robin Cornell, just 11 years old, was a bright, vibrant girl with a future full of potential. Her infectious laughter and boundless energy left a lasting impression on everyone she met. Robin was known for her love of animals, her enthusiasm for school, and her ability to make friends easily. That's a rare one, enthusiasm for school. This girl was a gem. She was always super active, always involved in community events and school activities, or just playing outdoors. Robin's joyful spirit and kind heart made her a cherished friend and beloved daughter. I think this really just drives home that she was a child. And it like takes me back to those young innocent days where really your only care in the world was like hanging out with friends, going outdoors, and just having fun. Jan Cornell, Robin's mother, was a close friend of Lisa's Story. Their friendship was built on mutual respect and shared values, and Lisa often helped Jan by babysitting Robin. The close bond between Lisa and Robin was evident to all who knew them. Despite the age difference, they shared a special friendship, often spending time together and supporting each other in their daily lives. Lisa and Robin lived in the Courtyards, a seemingly safe and nurturing apartment complex in Cape Coral, surrounded by friends and family who appreciated their warmth and kindness. The community knew them as kind-hearted and loving individuals, always ready to lend a hand or share a kind word. Lisa and Robin's tragic deaths were a devastating blow to the community. This loss left a void that would be felt for years to come. So Lisa's Story had moved in with Jan at her apartment on May 7th. Just 2 days later, Robin was begging her mom, Jan, to let a friend stay the night. But Jan refused because the fifth grader hadn't cleaned her room that day. Takes me back. I remember those days. Mom, shout out to you. Later that night on May 9th, Jan left their apartment to visit her boyfriend's place, leaving Lisa's Story to babysit Robin. Jan was planning to return after watching a football game, but the game went into overtime and she ended up falling asleep there. It was a night like any other, but it would soon become a night that changed Jan's life forever. She woke up at 4:15 a.m. in a panic. She had to be at work in 15 minutes. She lived just blocks away, so she raced home, worrying whether she would have time to iron her uniform. Sadly, Jan Cornell returned to her apartment to find a scene of unimaginable horror. Quote, "I thought for sure it was a burglar. I thought, oh great, I'm going to walk in and he's going to be taking my TV and he's going to hit me in the head. But my daughter was in there, so I had to go in, end quote. When she got inside, she saw the ironing board in the kitchen was laid out, just as she had left it. But there was something strange. There were framed pictures of her daughter Robin and her friend Lisa arranged on it. She raced up the stairs and found her daughter, lifeless. She had been strangled with her own clothing.
On the floor murder.
Reminds me of that moment.
The pain that goes along with losing a child. It's like having your heart ripped right out of your chest. That's why we can't give up.
I was waiting for a miracle.
Quote, I kept screaming for Lisa to come in and help me. My first thought was, what did she do to her? I always feel bad for thinking that at first. I didn't know she was dead too until the detectives told me. End quote. The crime scene was shocking, with clear signs of a violent struggle. The sheer brutality of the crime left both the authorities and the community reeling in shock and fear. The autopsy determined that Lisa and Robin had been suffocated with pillows and sexually assaulted. Blood and signs of a struggle were everywhere, indicating a violent confrontation. The discovery of the bodies sent shockwaves through Cape Coral, shattering the sense of safety in the close-knit community. Neighbors and friends were horrified as the news spread about the brutal murders. The picturesque apartment complex, the courtyards, was turned into a crime scene teeming with police officers, investigators, and forensic teams. Yellow crime scene tape closed off the area as detectives combed through every inch of the apartment, searching for clues. The murders of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell marked a tragic day in Cape Coral's history, one that would leave a haunting mark on the community and spark a decades-long quest for justice. So my gram at this time actually lived really close to the apartments where Jan, Robin, and Lisa lived. So I just wanted to share her thoughts here about it. Quote, it happened about 1 to 2 miles from us. My friend Sheila lived in the same complex. I believe your mom was about 15 and I think just finished her 8th grade at Calusa Middle School. It definitely was a shock and horrifically scary knowing our daughter was just a bit older than the murdered girl. I don't remember a whole lot about that time, but do remember that authorities thought the murderer had been connected to the victim in some way. Of course, we were vigilant and most likely more aware of our surroundings and security. End quote. Hearing about firsthand experiences in these cases is always so fascinating. In the true crime world, it's easy to slip into that consumer mindset, which I will admit, I do that. Just binge listening to podcasts or watching videos back to back without much thought. But I think it's important to take a step back and remember that these victims and their families had their own lives. They each deserve to be remembered and honored in a meaningful way. So I was just hoping that by adding in this account, this firsthand account, helps bring that human aspect back into the case and just keeps us grounded throughout this episode. Hey dudes, yep, it's me again. I totally understand that sometimes these cases can get pretty heavy. And because of that, I'd love to create a more lighthearted and fun conversation over on social. If that's something you'd be interested in, you can follow at Weird and Wicked Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Can't wait to see you over there. The investigation into the brutal murders of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell began immediately, with authorities painstakingly collecting evidence from the crime scene. The severity and complexity of the case demanded a thorough examination, and detectives worked tirelessly to piece together what had happened that tragic night. One of the most significant pieces of evidence found was semen on the bedsheet and pillowcase where Robin was sleeping, and tragically inside Robin herself. This crucial evidence indicated a sexual assault, adding a horrific layer to the crime. Additionally, a piece of blonde hair was found on Lisa Story's body, which could potentially link the perpetrator to the scene.
It was very confusing because I couldn't even sort out what may have gone wrong, what happened.
Cape Coral police have been baffled by the case since the beginning, too. They have DNA evidence, drops of blood police say the killer left behind, a set of keys believed to be linked to the murderer, but they were never able to make an arrest. When I interviewed Jan 10 years ago, she told me it felt like something other than real life.
Where Lisa's story was found, detectives discovered a keychain with a horseshoe-shaped Etienne Agner charm and 4 keys, 2 Toyota car keys and 2 house keys, none of which belonged to anyone in the apartment. This strange find suggested that the killer might have left these items behind, perhaps in a rush or due to their prolonged presence in the residence. Another puzzling discovery was a pair of white socks found on a dining room chair, which did not belong to any of the apartment's residents. Investigators speculated that the killer might have taken a shower during the several hours he spent in the home, indicating a disturbingly casual attitude towards the crime. Disgusting. The most damning piece of evidence collected was the DNA left by the killer. A crime lab analysis determined that the DNA belonged to a white male with type O blood. Despite this breakthrough, authorities were unable to match the DNA to any samples in national and state databases at the time. However, they remained hopeful that technological advancements and new entries into the database might eventually lead to a match. Okay, so one thing to note here. Remember, this was 1990, and it might be hard to imagine, but DNA evidence collection and processing was nowhere near what it is today. All they really had in terms of biological evidence from the scene was the semen, the strand of hair, and the blood. And this was really not much to go on, especially taking into account the technology that they had back then. So pretty much I want to point out, I feel like this was just an uphill battle from the start. Detectives also noted several personal items missing from the apartment, including Lisa Story's driver's license, credit cards, checkbook, and a 1990 Psycho wristwatch. I might be pronouncing that wrong. The watch had been a recent purchase meant for Story's boyfriend. The theft of these items suggested a possible motive, but they were never recovered, leaving another piece of the puzzle missing. Despite these early efforts, the investigation faced significant challenges due to the limitations of forensic technology at the time. The inability to immediately identify the perpetrator from the DNA evidence left the case unsolved for many years, haunting the community and the families of the victims. In the aftermath of the horrific murders of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell, investigators had a daunting task ahead of them: identifying and apprehending the perpetrator. The early stages of the investigation saw a flurry of activity as detectives worked tirelessly to follow leads and rule out potential suspects. However, the lack of advanced forensic technology, like I mentioned, and the unknown variables involved in the crime presented significant challenges. Again, while they had originally thought that the perpetrator may have known the victims in some way, none of their physical evidence led them to any answers. It was all so random, also, I feel like. The socks, the photos laid out on the ironing board, the keys left behind. Like, there was all this evidence and these belongings, but none of them were really connected at all, and none of them brought forth any leads for investigators. So it's like they had a bunch of stuff. They really didn't know what to do with it. They had DNA, they had semen, they had stuff like biological evidence that they could test, but it just wasn't coming up through their system. So they kind of like found themselves at a standstill with all these pieces of evidence, but obviously nothing was leading to anything. Authorities began by scrutinizing everyone connected to the victims and the crime scene. DNA samples were collected from over 100 males in the years following the murders, and an additional 20 were tested more recently. Despite these efforts, each potential suspect was eventually cleared when their DNA did not match the samples collected at the crime scene. It's just wild to think that this is really all they had to go off for this case. There isn't much you really could have done back then with just this sample. But they tried to get creative, at least. I will give them that. An FBI profiler suggested that the killer was likely someone who had lived or worked in the Cape Coral area at the time but had since moved away. This theory prompted investigators to ask the community if they knew anyone who had left the area shortly after the murders, perhaps under the guise of a better job offer or a new opportunity elsewhere. Despite these inquiries, the elusive nature of the suspect continued to impede the investigation. The collected DNA was forwarded to the Combined DNA Index System, otherwise known as CODIS. This is the national database of DNA profiles from felons convicted of serious crimes. This move was aimed at finding a match that could link the suspect to other crimes or provide a lead. Frustratingly, no match was found. I'm going to read a quote from the lead detective, Detective Ballin, was his name. Quote, "That's always what kind of baffled us in this case. His profile hasn't been found in any other crime. The way this crime was committed, this individual most likely struck again." End quote. Which is weird because, like, reading through the case, I was thinking maybe the opposite. Maybe it was like this person's first crime, or maybe he did strike again, but it was in like a whole new town. Maybe he left town completely and nothing was ever linked. I don't know. Like, a lot of crimes, like there's always a first, you know? As we mentioned before, the limitations of forensic science in the early 1990s posed significant hurdles for investigators. While the DNA evidence collected was crucial, the technology at the time was not sophisticated enough to provide immediate or comprehensive results. The case was handed from one investigator to the next over the years, with each new lead offering hope, but ultimately ending in disappointment. Time, in many ways, became both a friend and an enemy to the case. On one hand, it eroded the memories of potential witnesses, led to people moving away, and even resulted in the deaths of some individuals who might have had crucial information. On the other hand, time also eased the fear of those who may have been too afraid to speak out initially. Either way, head detective Fidel Ballin and Jan Cornell remained steadfast in their belief that the case was solvable, despite the long and arduous road they faced. For Jan Cornell, the years following the brutal murders of Lisa Story and her daughter, Robin, were marked by relentless anguish and unyielding determination. As the case went cold, Jan found herself trapped in a limbo of unanswered questions, haunted by the uncertainty of not knowing who was responsible for the heinous crime. The toll on Jan was immeasurable. The unwavering dedication of the police department and Jan Cornell's relentless perseverance was the constant in this prolonged investigation. They continued to push forward, determined to find justice for Lisa and Robin and to bring closure to a community haunted by the brutal crime. As forensic science advanced, so did the hope that one day the elusive killer would be finally brought to justice. Quote, "All it's going to take is that one person," Detective Ballin emphasized. "Whoever did this told someone. Somebody knows something. They need to pick up the phone." In a News Press article from September 4th, 2007, Jan's unwavering commitment to seeking justice was evident. Quote, "I promised them both. I will not rest until the person who hurt them is found." End quote. Her relentless advocacy kept the case at the forefront of public consciousness, ensuring that Lisa and Robin's memory would not fade into obscurity. As the Cape Coral Police Department continued to dedicate resources to the investigation, Jan's perseverance served as a beacon of hope for the community. "I'm not going away," she affirmed. "And if there's one good thing that's come from this, it's that this police department has better investigators." Through Jan's tireless efforts and the advancements in forensic science, the quest for justice remained alive, offering hope for closure to a community deeply affected by tragedy. Advancements in forensic science and DNA testing offered a glimmer of hope in the pursuit of justice. Over the years, the evolution of forensic technology provided investigators with new tools and methodologies to analyze evidence collected from the crime scene. Despite initial setbacks, Jan remained strong in her belief that these advancements would eventually lead to a breakthrough in the case. As DNA databases expanded and techniques improved, there was renewed optimism. In August of 2016, a pivotal moment in the decades-long investigation into the murders of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell occurred, igniting a glimmer of hope for justice. The breakthrough came unexpectedly when authorities apprehended Joseph Zeiler in connection with the air rifle shooting of his 25-year-old son. This charge of felony aggravated battery mandated Zeiler to provide a DNA sample, a seemingly routine procedure that would ultimately unveil a startling revelation. Zeiler's DNA matched evidence recovered from the double murder crime scene, marking a critical turning point in the case. Following the DNA match, Joseph Zeiler, 28 years old in 1990, was swiftly charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of sexual battery, and 1 count of burglary in connection with the brutal slayings of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell. Held on a bond of $500,000, Zeiler faced the weight of justice as the legal proceedings unfolded. For 26 years, Jan had been waiting for this moment. This is always that season of justice feeling when everyone close to the case can sort of breathe that sigh of relief. And it literally gives me goosebumps. Zeiler's past revealed a troubling pattern of criminal behavior, amplifying the gravity of charges against him. Just 2 months after the double homicide in 1990, Zeiler was arrested for a string of offenses, including dealing in stolen property, battery on a police officer, resisting arrest, and carrying a concealed firearm. Subsequently convicted, Zeiler served time behind bars, leaving behind a trail of legal infractions that underscored his propensity for violence and crime. As legal proceedings commenced, the community watched bated breath, hoping that justice would finally be served for Lisa, Robin, and their grieving loved ones. This is where I found out about the case because it was 2023. It started hitting the news a lot. My mom started sharing it because she was getting a lot of the news on Facebook and whatnot. And I remember looking into the story and just being like, hell yes, they caught this guy. I was so excited for the trial to start, and I wasn't watching it to the T, but whenever I could tune in, I would check it out. Whatever articles were coming out about it, I was reading them, watching videos about it. And it was just so interesting to be able to follow a case that's so close to home and, hope and pray that this guy gets caught and gets the worst punishment possible. Hey guys, it's me, here with a quick and exciting update. If you're enjoying the deep dives into the mysteries and stories I cover, you're going to love what I have in store for you in our monthly newsletter. Every month, I send out an exclusive true crime newsletter packed with behind-the-scenes content, upcoming episode previews, and additional insights into the cases we discuss. But that's not all. Newsletter subscribers also get access to my curated list of true crime current events. It's the best way to stay connected and engaged with the podcast. So what are you waiting for? Head over to the website and sign up for the monthly true crime newsletter today. Don't miss out on all the extra content and perks I've created just for you. Thanks for listening and supporting our show. Now let's get back to the story. As the case of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell unfolded, investigators and the community alike grappled with the haunting question: what could have driven someone to commit such heinous acts? Delving into the realm of motive, various theories emerged, each offering a glimpse into the dark motivations lurking behind the brutal murders. One prevailing theory speculated that the perpetrator may have harbored a deep-seated grudge or vendetta against one or both of the victims, whether fueled by jealousy, resentment, or a desire for revenge. This motive suggested a personal connection or prior altercation between the assailant and Lisa or Robin. Psychological profilers and criminal psychologists embarked on a meticulous examination of Joseph Zeiler's background, seeking to unravel the complex tapestry of his psyche. Drawing from a wealth of forensic data and behavioral indicators, they meticulously constructed a psychological profile that shed light on the inner workings of Zeiler's mind. At the heart of the profile lay Zeiler's troubled past, characterized by a pattern of criminal behavior and violence. His rap sheet, riddled with arrests for various offenses, ranging from dealing in stolen property to battery on a police officer, painted a portrait of a man with a propensity for lawlessness and aggression. These incidents provided crucial insights into Zeiler's MO and served as red flags indicative of deeper underlying issues. Furthermore, these psychological assessments delved into Zeiler's behavioral patterns, examining factors such as impulsivity and potential psychopathy. Traits associated with antisocial personality disorder, including a lack of remorse or empathy, manipulation, and disregard for societal norms, featured prominently in the profile. These characteristics underscored the chilling realization that Zeiler possesses the capacity for calculated violence and callous disregard for human life. When this is discovered about a person, or whenever someone is, diagnosed with these issues, mental illnesses, it is such a red flag, I feel like, especially in a trial, because I think it really shows that, well, obviously it was proven, but it shows that this person is willing and capable of doing this again, because clearly the disregard for human life is just ingrained in their mind. And, unless they work on it fucking hard as hell, I don't even know at that point if it can be fixed, because there's just some people like that who will never change, and they'll always have that tendency to murder someone because they really just don't give a shit about other human beings other than themselves. It's really freaking sad. But yeah, I feel like that always goes to show this person will definitely, could possibly, probably do this again. Furthermore, the psychological profile highlighted potential triggers or stressors that may have precipitated Zeiler's descent into violence. Whether fueled by personal grievances, unresolved trauma, or a distorted worldview, these factors provided valuable insights into the motivational forces driving Zeiler's actions on that fateful night in May 1990. Ultimately, the psychological profile of Joseph Zeiler painted a disturbing picture of a deeply troubled individual grappling with inner demons and harboring a capacity for unspeakable acts of violence. It served as a stark reminder of the complexities of human behavior and the profound implications of untreated mental illness and societal neglect. The revelation of Zeiler's arrest sent shockwaves rippling through the close-knit community of Cape Coral, Florida, leaving residents reeling in disbelief and horror. The arrest served as a stark reminder of the fragility of safety and the lurking presence of evil in their midst. Yet, amidst the collective grief and fear, the community rallied together, offering support and solidarity to the grieving families and reaffirming their commitment to seeking justice for Lisa, Robin, and all those affected by the tragic events of May 9th, 1990. Yeah, I definitely felt that feeling of, I didn't know about the story. My grandmother did. My mom probably didn't know about it when it happened, but obviously knew about it when it hit the news again when he was caught. But it's just that feeling like these people are out there. They're out in our world. He probably was going to Walmart on the weekends, getting his groceries, going out, running errands. He still had to act as a human being and live his life do the shit that you gotta do. And I mean, who the hell knows? A lot of us probably crossed paths with him. And obviously, he was still an extremely violent person. It's just so scary to think that, like, this isn't the only guy, too. There are murderers who get away. People forget about it over the years. But then once it surfaces again, people realize, like, oh shit, like, these people are out there still. It's freaking scary. His trial began in May of 2023. Again, this is like really when it hit the news and when it was like starting to blow up a lot again. During the trial proceedings, emotions ran high as Jan Cornell, Robin's mother, bravely took the stand to recount the harrowing details of the night she discovered her daughter and Lisa Story brutally murdered. In a chilling courtroom scene, Joseph Zeiler, the accused, sat just a few feet away from Jan, displaying an unsettling lack of emotion as she tearfully testified. Refusing to acknowledge the gruesome crime scene photos presented in court, Zeiler maintained an eerie composure throughout the trial. Critical forensic evidence presented during trial further corroborated the prosecution's case against Zeiler. The semen found on the bedsheet where Robin had been sleeping was matched to Zeiler with an astonishing statistical frequency of over 1 in 700 billion. This damning evidence served to strengthen the prosecution's argument and underscore the magnitude of Zeiler's culpability in the heinous crimes. In contrast, the defense arguments centered on challenging the prosecution's case, emphasizing the lack of motive and Zeiler's absence from the initial investigation suspect list. However, these arguments fell short in the face of overwhelming forensic evidence and eyewitness testimonies implicating Zeiler in the murders. I mean, obviously. Oh my God, I swear to God, if that was my lawyer, I would have fired him. I would have fired him so damn quick, because how the hell is that argument going to stand against DNA evidence that was found to be a match to Zeiler in a 1 to 700 billion chance? There's no way. There's no way you can go up and just be like, yo, jury, the guy wasn't in the initial investigation. He wasn't on the initial suspect list. He's not guilty. How the hell does that make any fucking sense? Like, I don't know. That was just like the most lackluster defense case I think maybe I have ever heard. They literally didn't even try, I don't think. They're like, bro, you're fucking guilty. They even thought so. And they're like, we don't have a chance. Like, how are you gonna? I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Let me know what you think, because I'm curious. Like, what defense would you make? Because I really can't think of one that would stand up to the 1 in 700 billion chance that that DNA is his DNA. Crazy. Ultimately, on June 26, 2023, Joseph Zeiler was found guilty on all counts.
Follows as to count 1 of the charge. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder of Robin Cornell.
Yes, the verdict brought a sense of closure to Jan Cornell and the community who had long awaited justice for Robin and Lisa. Quote, "Nothing can take the place of hearing the words today that justice for Robin and justice for Lisa has happened," Jan Cornell said after Zeiler received his sentence. "They were here, they lived. Some evil monster cut their lives so short, so unfair. But now they have peace, and now we can let them have peace." Meanwhile, Zeiler continued to maintain his innocence during sentencing. Quote, "I have nothing to do with this. I maintain my innocence," end quote. Despite Zeiler's continued declarations of innocence, the jury's decision marked a decisive step towards accountability for the heinous crimes that had shattered countless lives. At sentencing, the jury recommended the death penalty in a 10-2 vote, which wouldn't have been a death recommendation under a previous statute. The new statute opened the door for death penalty if at least 8 jurors vote in favor. This new rule became effective April 20th, 2023. Prior, jurors had to vote unanimously in favor. Joseph Zeiler was sentenced to death Monday afternoon, June 26, 2023.
More than 30 years after the brutal rape and murder of an 11-year-old and her babysitter in their Cape Coral home, their families finally feel some relief. Today, a judge sentenced their killer to death as the jury recommended. But before he could do that, Joseph Zeiler did this to his attorney while handcuffed. He clocked him in the face with his elbow. NBC2's Samantha Serban is live and local at the courthouse where this emotional hearing wrapped up this afternoon.
So today, to hear that he received not one death sentence, but 2, one for Robin Cornell and one for Lisa Story. Jan Cornell told me she is feeling such relief. The courtroom literally stood up and clapped after the judge read his final order today. It was a feeling of elation that is 33 years in the making. Jan tells me there was no moment that can top when she heard the judge say that the defendant has forfeited his right to live.
He is now being held at Union Correctional Institution in Rayford, Florida. Quote from Jan Cornell: "He has received the ultimate punishment that the state of Florida can give, which is the death penalty." End quote. So there is this statute prior to his sentencing that was pretty much just saying, like, the whole jury had to agree unanimously in favor of the death penalty in order for the death penalty to be recommended to the judge. So it's just crazy to think that just about 2 months prior, his sentencing may have gone very differently. I'll get into my thoughts on the death penalty a little bit later, but I would say in this specific case, I'm happy that this statute changed because this guy is a monster and he definitely deserves to die for what he did, in my opinion. The aftermath of the tragic murders of Lisa Story and Robin Cornell have left an enduring mark on Jan Cornell, Robin's mother, whose journey from the night of the crime to the trial's conclusion has been one of unwavering perseverance and relentless pursuit of justice. For 26 years, Cornell grappled with the unimaginable grief of losing her beloved daughter and her dear friend Lisa. Every day she prayed for closure, haunted by the memory of how her child and Lisa were brutally taken from her. Despite the passage of time, Cornell could never let go of the pain inflicted by the heinous acts committed against her loved ones. In the wake of the tragedy, Cornell has found solace in honoring the memory of her daughter and Lisa, ensuring that their legacies endure. She visits Robin's grave every weekend, placing fresh flowers as a symbol of her enduring love and remembrance. Through her ongoing dedication to preserving their memory, Cornell keeps alive the spirits of Robin and Lisa, ensuring that they are never forgotten. Their story serves as a reminder of the preciousness of life and the resilience of the human spirit, leaving a lasting impact on all who hear it. Moving forward, I believe it is imperative that we continue to support efforts in solving cases and bringing closure to families who have endured unspeakable loss. By raising awareness and discussing these cases, we can keep the spotlight on unsolved crimes and ensure that the voices of victims are never forgotten. That's partially why I started this podcast. I feel like as people who consume this type of content and listen to it like on a weekly, daily basis, whatever it is, I think we have a duty to, honor the victims, honor their families, and if we can in any way, show support, share it, get attention to these cases because look at Crime Junkie. Like, so many cases by now have been solved just because their wide reach, support, help pay for all this stuff, get the stories out, interview people and whatnot. It's the least that we can do is share these things, talk about them, get some attention on them, and just hope that we can make even a little bit of a difference in these people's lives. So yeah, just to drive it home, like the importance of advancements in forensic science and community support, it's clear that these elements are crucial in solving cold cases. It's been proven time and time again that community support, making a ruckus about cases, and supporting, like DNA testing and all this sorts of stuff has been proven to solve cold cases. It's just a fact, like it is the season of justice. And like nowadays, people can't freaking get away with stuff like they used to. And, the more that we support these and share these, the more that people are going to get caught and not get away with this. And also, I feel like the case of Lisa's story and Robin Cornell just demonstrates how perseverance and technological process can eventually lead to justice. So yeah, that is the case of Lisa's story and Robin Cornell. It is truly heartbreaking, but also a hopeful example that these days, killers cannot get away with murder. But what do you guys think? Do you think he deserves a death penalty? Do you believe in the death penalty at all, period? So me personally, I'm conflicted about it. So like deep down, I believe like an eye for an eye. You killed someone. You deserve the ultimate punishment if you did that. Because, you chose to do that. And now you have to freaking lay in the bed that you made. But then on the other hand, I'm like, that maybe is too easy. Like they're just getting off really easy. They just get to, pass on and end their life. And there's no real punishment other than the punishment of death. There's always the argument of like rot in jail. For the rest of your life, you're going to sit in a cell and you're going to eat shit food and you're going to be miserable. And that's like another thing that I think about too. But then I'm like, yeah, jail, I'm sure. Prison sucks. But, you're living there. You don't have to pay for your meals. You don't have to, worry about basic things in life. People get to come visit you. Is prison that bad when you are a convicted murderer? I don't know. It might be a weird thing to think about in that way, but that's just what always goes through my head when it comes to the death penalty. I feel like I lean towards pro death penalty just because, yeah, like you killed someone. You killed a human being. You took a life, you put it in your hands, and you freaking crushed it, and they're gone. And not only did you affect them, you affected their families, you affected their communities. There's this ripple effect that happens. And I don't know. I think maybe I'm for the death penalty, I would have to say, in most cases, at least. Sometimes it's like, yeah, he should die. He should die for what he did or what she did. But then sometimes I feel like we feel, yeah, sure, let him rot in jail. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I'm definitely curious to hear. So let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you made it this far along, leave me this emoji in the comments. Thank you for sticking along this whole time. I know it's a long one usually. And also, don't forget to give this video a like and a subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps grow the channel and, get these stories out to more people and whatnot. So thank you so much for the support. It really does mean the world. And with that, I'm Rachel. And until next time, stay weird and stay wicked. Bye.